Hello, everyone. Let me just double check that we're live now and try to play a little bit of the intro music. Let's see. Yeah, I had this already, and now, okay, here we go. All right, I'll play the music now. Yeah, so hopefully you can hear that as it goes into the mic. Cinema right there, in case it's not audible enough, but yeah, so today is Trevor Rabin's 70th birthday. Very well known as one of the guitarists of Yes. He was with them from 1983 to 1994, 95, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. And he also toured, he reunited with John Anderson and Rick Wakeman as ARW for a couple years in the 2010s, and he's had a huge career beyond all of that. He's had some solo albums, one released very recently, toward the end of last year, Rio, and he's done a bunch of film score work. So, yeah, we're celebrating Trevor Rabin today. If you're watching live, or I guess if you're watching the archive afterward, tell me where you're watching from and what are your favorite works that involve Trevor Rabin. So ahead of this broadcast, I shared around a post where I asked people what their favorite Trevor Rabin moment is on each Yes West album. And so in this question, I included 90125, Big Generator, Talk, and of course, I got a couple of people asking, well, why don't you include Union? And here's the thing. Um, I've been doing this thing for each of these January Yes birthday boys. So before this one, there was one for Tony K, and there's gonna be one for John Davison on the 16th. And for each of them, I was like, oh, I could mainly focus on three albums. For Tony, since we're not 100% sure of his contributions on the Yes West albums, but he's very present on the early three albums. I figure, okay, we'll focus on those for him, and those remaining albums will focus on for Trevor Rabin. But Union is kind of a compilation, only has a few Yes West tracks. It's mostly ABWH plus session musicians. But people are free to mention what they like of his that ended up on there and on other stuff beyond all of that. And of course, for John Davison, I'll be asking about Heaven and Earth, The Quest, and Mirror to the Sky. So, three birthdays, three albums. I figure there is a nice sort of poetic thing about that. So yeah, that's why I worded these questions the way that I did. But it's very loose. It's very free flowing. People can mention any works of Trevor's that resonate with them. And I have like this doc in front of me that has all the comments I was able to find where people answered the question with their favorite Trevor moments from those albums and some nods to some stuff beyond those albums. Um, so yeah, very exciting stuff. And of course, I have my own top Trevor moments on those albums, and I asked Dad his as well. I'll be reading ours toward the end of the episode, and then also like give a little update on what the next few episodes will be toward the end as well. I think that'll be a nice place to do that because we mainly want to celebrate Trevor Rabin on this. But yeah, so I think this is going to be really interesting for 90125 and Talk. I think there was a top, like, a sort of expected answer for what the song with the most mentions would be, but Big Generator was a little bit more unpredictable. So, as you will see as I read from these, so it'll be interesting how all of that turned out, as I'll reveal as we unfold. Okay, so here we go. Um, so first up, we got Amy David Valentine, who says too many, and listing some favorites. Lift Me Up, Miracle of Life, of course, those are from Union. My favorite one from Talk is Real Love, but I love it all. The Calling, and not to mention Solo Works, Can't Look Away, and Wolf are favorites. Love Will Find a Way, and I'm Running. These would be my pre Rio favorites. Oh, I forgot to add, if you're throwing it way back, the song Old Enough. Okay, yeah, so some really nice selections there. Amy didn't limit it to just three options, which is cool because, we're celebrating Trevor Rabin, but yeah, very cool. Okay, so let me just make sure my sound is still great. Yeah, okay. All right. Next person, Arlete and Nice, uh, who said, yeah, I kind of had to translate this, but what I got from this was that Can't Look Away. It's not yes, but Can't Look Away is too perfect. I love the live version. Um, yeah, I agree with that. Well, I'll put my comments on that after I finish reading that submission. For 90125, it's really difficult. Changes or Our Song. And for Big Generator, Finalize, Union, Saving My Heart. Talk. This album is too perfect. This week, for example, I can't get, I think saying can't get it out of my head. I love it. It's an addiction. But ultimately mentioned Where Will You Be? It's magical and perfect. I think is what that says there. So yeah, I can't look away. That's such a great album. That 1989 solo album and the opening track, the title track. I just feel there's something about it that really has so much energy to it, and it has something to say. So yeah, very cool that you mentioned that right there. Oh, and also mentioned Rio, Marvelous. I think difficult to choose, but this week I think Paradise. Okay, I think that's what that says. And then Don Kingfisher Campbell says it should have been released this way, and then posted a link to YouTube where you can find an early alternate version of Finalize, which has Trevor Rabin on lead vocals, and some of the lyrics are different. If none of you have heard that version, I recommend you check it out. It's really cool. I think my ideal version, because I already really like the version of Finalize that's on Big Generator. It really resonates with me personally. But I think my ideal version of that song would be if these two versions, the album version and the early take, were like somehow combined into one longer thing. I'm not really sure how that would be, but I think that would be a really cool um, idea, at least conceptually. But yeah, and then Brian Harris. So for 90125, Brian said changes. For Big Generator, I'm Running. Union, Miracle of Life. Talk, Endless Dream. As a bonus choice, I really enjoyed what he did with And You and I on the Talk Tour, substituting the Steve Howe guitar intro with the same riff on piano instead. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that until Brian mentioned that here. But it's interesting the way Yes musicians, their successors will reinterpret some of the things that their predecessors would usually do. So very cool. Nice little mention there. And then we got Hone Bo Peterson, who says 90125 changes. The track itself is beautiful and complex. His vocals are awesome, and the way Trevor and John interchange vocals are perfect. And the guitar playing he does here is absolutely wonderful. Big Generator, Shoot High, Aim Low. Probably the best Yes track Rabin was involved with. Once again, the shared vocal duties are John are sublime, and the guitar playing is out of this world. Union, Miracle of Life, even more Yes-like than the ABWH tracks. That's interesting because, yeah, I think I'm kind of in agreement there. Because Miracle of Life very much does have some elements of, I guess, what people would classify as classic. Yes, it feels very progressive and it feels very refined. Whereas the ABWH stuff on Union felt like it was trying to go in a sort of different subgenre of prog, like neo prog, I guess it was. Um, and I always thought that Shock to the System felt more like a Yes West style than a classic, 70s Yes style. Although I remember seeing an interview with Jimmy Hahn where he was asked to do a Gates of Delirium thing with the guitar toward the end, and I do hear that. But yeah, for the longest time, Shock to the System has felt to me like kind of ABWH trying something that's kind of like the City of Love sound, if that makes sense. Um, and for Talk, the intro to Endless Dream, I wish the entire composition was this good, but I also like State of Play. It's so different from anything the band did, almost hip hop like in places, a great catchy tune. Okay, so it seems like you prefer the Endless Dream intro over the rest of the song, but yeah, that and State of Play, like both of those feel like they really go off the wall in a great way, and it's really amazing. I bet it was really surprising for lots of people when they listened to Talk for the first time, way back when. So, oh, also adds other things I like with Trevor is the track Now from his second solo album, I think. Another great catchy song with some nice and intriguing lyrics. Sorrow from Can't Look Away is another highlight, and since I mentioned 9012 Live in the Tony K posting a few days back, City of Love and It Can Happen are both so much better live than in their studio versions, and it's all down to Trevor and his interaction with Chris Squire. I also love what he does with Starship Trooper. The guitar playing he does when the song Verm Jam speeds up is of Van Halen quality. Yeah, Trevor definitely had that feel like on that tour, and um yeah, City of Love, I definitely prefer the live version as well because I feel like John, Trevor again like is able to do the great guitar stuff, but I also feel like John is able to do like he sings the lyrics a bit more aggressively and it kind of adds something. Okay, and so finishing off that submission, it says, "Oh, and Rio was the best thing he ever did solo, not one weak track." That's high praise indeed. Thanks for the submission there. So next we have Andrew L. Smith, who says, "Hold on, love will find a way, walls, but I love every song on those three records." Nice. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think this might be the only mention of walls on this sample size of submissions that I have. I quite like the song, and from what I understand, it was kind of a late addition to the Talk album, and co-written by Roger Hodgson. There's even a demo with him and Trevor on the 90124 compilation of demos. It sounds really good. It pretty much sounds like the Talk version, but without John singing the "Oh, this indecision, will you break me down?" I feel like those are lyrics that he added to the version in order to give the John flavor to that song, but most of it is pretty like one to one. So next we have Dean Bibb from 90125, Our Song. He leads the way as the band goes absolutely full tilt against the wind on this one. From Big Generator, Almost Like Love, the whimsical verses against the almost hair metal chorus sections and Trevor's shred solo make this song an outlier on an album that was perhaps their most 80s. Yeah, and just to interject for a little bit, I kind of see a trend between those songs. I feel like Our Song and Almost Like Love are kind of like counterparts. Like they are what they are, but for each of these two albums, if that makes sense. Like they're the fun, like speedy songs. So I think there's like a bit of a parallel there. So yeah, thanks. Then for Union, Saving My Heart, Trevor's solo on this is almost as what the hell as Owner of a Lonely Heart, especially in the last few bars where he leans into jazz. It somehow remains totally singable as he does so. All right, and then we have Talk. This is my favorite Yes album. I can still recall being in the drive thru at the McDonald's in Oak Hill, West Virginia, hearing The Calling on the radio for the first time and losing my mind when Trevor digs in at the end of the solo section. And that drum sound, apocalyptic. His solo work, the song Can't Look Away, still cannot be beaten from start to finish, from the first salvo to the end, from his vibrato and phrasing to the way the organ and the Leslie speaker ramps up going into the outro section, right after he dumps the whammy bar to the bottom with a crunch. There is so much attitude and swagger to that song. Yeah. And even though Owner of a Lonely Heart wasn't um, the top choice in this one, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Like, that was such a huge thing in Yes history. It was such a hit single. You know, Trevor had done some solo work, and then was almost in Asia, didn't quite work out. And then Chris and Alan were doing XYZ, you know, X Yes Zeppelin with Jimmy Page, whose birthday was actually the other day, just turned 80. And then that didn't quite work out. So they got with Trevor and also brought Tony, did cinema, and they could really feel the chemistry. And they brought John on and were sort of pressured into turning it into Yes. And because of that, Yes came back. Um, and I think Yes would have reunited in some form eventually, like late 80s or maybe into the 90s. But I think this definitely accelerated the process, you know, made them come back sooner than they would have. I guess that would have depended on how successful and how long cinema would have been active before anything like that type of reunion would have happened, if that makes sense. Um, so getting back to the submissions, Paul Thomas says Endless Dream so overlooked. Yeah, that's definitely amongst the general fans, I would say. I think the people who've listened to all the Yes albums, like there's a lot of love for Endless Dream, but it's definitely not as mainstream as some of the other songs. And you know, Talk felt that album felt like it got buried, like it wasn't as in the zeitgeist as 90125 or even Big Generator from what I could tell, which is unfortunate because it's a really great album. Philip Kilroy says for 90125 changes great lead vocals from him, and the part of the intro where the band is playing the intro riff while the main riff of the song is also playing is the single best moment on the entire album. Big Generator, Love Will Find a Way, my favorite guitar riff on the album. For Union, Miracle of Life, that intro is perfect. Yeah, it definitely sticks with you, doesn't it, that intro? And then we got Talk, Endless Dream, the Rabin era's big prog epic, so it should be self explanatory. Yeah, it is. Fairly certain Trevor is the one playing the piano part. Yeah, Trevor, even though he's most known for being the guitarist in the band, he's a multi instrumentalist. You know, he can play the keys as he's done on certain parts of these albums. And I think he's played like a little bit of drums at some point. Oh, look at the comments. Adam Parrish says, "Hi, Stephen. Hope you are well." All right, thanks, Adam. I am. And I see some other people are watching as well. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Next, we have Nick Kokocious, who says, Hearts, Big Generator, Where Will You Be? And favorite album, Jacaranda. Now, I think that's the first mention of the title track, Big Generator. You know, so far when mentioning Big Generator, I've been mentioning the album and people's favorite on there. But I think this is the first instance so far where someone has mentioned the title track is their favorite Trevor Rabin moment on that album. So very cool. Oh, and I see that Amy replied to Nick's comment saying, "Me and my boy from Jacaranda, fire." You know, the fire emoji. Yeah, Jacaranda was really surprising. It's kind of eclectic. It's got jazzy parts, but also that orchestral, Rescue, which he reused from the Guardian soundtrack. Um, it's an instrumental solo album, but like lots of great stuff on there. And I'm hoping that over the years he's talked about doing another instrumental solo album. So I'd be really down to hear another one of those from Trevor, and also another vocal album. So I think he might have those in mind, but toward the end of last year, he was very much in a, well, let's see how this album does first. Focus on the album at hand, Rio, which is understandable. You gotta like focus one thing at a time. But we fans are just so dang excited for the stuff he can do. Then Craig Estenis says changes, love will find a way, endless dream, and then lift me up from Union. Nice. Yeah, really good um, favorites there. Sorry, I'm just like sharing this around. Felix Alderete Ortega says from 90125 changes and hold on. Big generator, shoot high, aim low. So I guess those are Felix's favorites in general from Rabin. Yes. So rather than going through each of those albums, so, which is fine, just say what your favorites featuring Trevor Rabin or favorite Trevor Rabin moments. Joe Trojkak says, watching Trevor play classic Yes tunes with incredible perfection at his first Yes concert, March 1984, Millersville College, Pennsylvania. Wow, so you were at that concert? That's really cool. Like, that must have been a huge moment for fans who, like, I wonder what the proportion was. Like, how much of the audience was already longtime Yes fans, and how much of it had heard Owner of a Lonely Heart and maybe Leave It on the radio and were like, oh, I want to see this band because of this song. Like, I'm very curious what the statistics for that may have been, but that might be really hard to figure out. But cool. So Stefan Reinhardt says 90125, the last riff on Hearts. Okay, so would that be the part where it's like do 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 do, that very power ballad type feel? Is that what you're referring to? Because that is a very sublime and triumphant sounding moment. I remember being very impressed with that when I listened to that at age 9, I want to say. Yeah. So then Big Generator, his handiwork toward the beginning of I'm Running, and for Talk, the solo on Endless Dream. Okay, so that be the guitar part that goes like do 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 do, because that is so off the wall and so cool. Like, especially when you're a kid listening to that, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to do this. So great. And then Daniel Mowry. Well, first let me look real quick. More comments. Ian Barber says National Treasure soundtracks are amazing too. Okay, yeah. And I was kind of surprised when they actually brought Trevor back to do the music for the TV show. Like, I don't know why. I think because of the large gap in time, I would have thought that maybe they would have tried going with someone else, but evidently they were like, no, Trevor Rabin is very much in the DNA of National Treasure music. So when I watched that show, I think I was paying more attention to the music than to the plot itself. There were some interesting things in the story. But yeah, like the music, like I paid especially very much attention to. And then Amy adds, yes, and gone in 60 seconds. Okay. I'm actually not sure if I've ever watched Gone in 60 Seconds. Like, I've been aware of it for so many years, but I've just never watched it or listened to the music for it. Then Amy also says Porsche Boost. I just listened to that one yesterday. Okay. Not very familiar with that one. Um, Violet Emily Stevenson says, I'm very grateful to have been born at a time where I could marvel at Yes, particularly Trevor Rabin. My favorite Trevor Rabin songs are on Talk, my favorite album of all time, absolute pinnacle of prog rock genius in my opinion. I love most tracks on Changes, particularly Hearts, City of Love, Changes, and Hold On, Superb. Oh, I guess you mean most of the tracks on 90125. Okay. Amy said Hearts is my favorite one, actually, from 90125. Okay. And great picks, Violet Emily. Okay. Um, oh, so Porsche Boost is from Gone in 60 Seconds. Okay. Yeah, thanks for the clarification there. And yeah, favorite song from an album can very much be different from favorite moment as it pertains to this musician. You know, that could be different. So it makes this thing really fun because it's like you sort of have to rethink and reframe how you pick these out, you know. Daniel Mowry says Red Desert from Beginnings. And Beginnings, of course, refers to, I think, Trevor's first solo album was originally titled Trevor Rabin, and then when it got re-released in the 2000s, it got retitled Beginnings, which is funny because that was the name of Steve Howe's first solo album as well. So Daniel says, I remember hearing his album in 77. I thought he was cool. I was a diehard Yes freak. I see how he was a great fit. Red Desert was a song on his solo album. Okay. And speaking for myself, I really need to go and listen to those first few solo albums. Red Desert, I'm not very familiar with. When I read that, I thought of the Red Desert painting that's on the ABWH album. So, kind of funny how that works out. And then Nathan Tyler Lowry, I think was one of the people who said it's conspicuous how Union is missing, and I was like, well, people can like mention favorite Trevor works in general, so feel free to give a nod to that. And he went with Love Conquers All, which actually did not make it onto Union, but it was one of those songs that Yes West were trying out with Billy Sherwood. You know, he co-wrote it, but the version of it that ended up on the Yes Years box set has Trevor Rabin on lead vocals, and he sounds really good on it. So yeah, that's a very deep pull right there. Let me just take a sip of water real quick. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really cool to see like all the participation here. Okay, so Doug Curran says, so for songs, he says Changes, I'm Running, Lift Me Up, Endless Dream. Favorite Rabin Yes album, Talk. Solo albums, Can't Look Away and Jacaranda. Favorite film appearance, Jack Frost. Film score, Remember the Titans. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of you here know that Dad and I talked about Jack Frost before going on the holiday break. So that was a lot of fun. And Remember the Titans, that's a very iconic one for Trevor's film score portfolio. It's really cool. Yeah, I'm just double checking like which groups I still need to share this into. But yeah, so Sammy Bullard says Hearts, Final Eyes, Endless Dream. Okay, nice. And then Tony Palermo says the first notes from The Calling, Trevor's guitar shimmered. Changes still does it for me. From the opening keyboard to Chris's dynamite bass like halfway through. It's thunder. Big Generator for me was strange. The harmonies that introduced the first song had a surprising retro sound to them. It made me take my first music loves a bit more seriously. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, The Calling was an interesting one to me growing up because when I was very little, my dad would play this cassette tape that has a few live recordings from the second concert on the Talk Tour. You know, the one from Canandaigua. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? So one of the tracks on there was The Calling, but it only had like the second half of the song. So it would go from the end of I Am Waiting, and then you hear a bit of the audience applauding, and then all of a sudden, do 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 do, you know, that instrumental bit midway through, right before they're like, do 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 do, feel the calling of a miracle. So for the longest time, I I had no memory of the first half of The Calling until I finally got the or actually until I remember I was like maybe 10ish, 9 or 10, and dad and I we were like going somewhere, you know, we were in the car and he put on the talk cassette and I got to hear all of The Calling, and that was also my first time hearing State of Play from what I could remember. You know, for all I know, maybe I heard it as a baby and just don't remember. But yeah, so for a while, that first part of The Calling was like not in my memory. But yeah, it's a really nice intro to the album. It's sort of a cool way of saying, okay, this lineup is back with some more Yes music, you know? So then David Bluter says, Endless Dream from Talk always felt like Trevor Rabin's swan song. 90125 brought Yes to a whole new audience. Big Generator has Shoot High, Aim Low, a longtime favorite. Yeah, nice. Okay, let's see. Just got scrolled down a little bit. Amy in the comments, watching live, adds, I'd give a nod to City of Love 2. I'd honestly have liked to have heard just Trevor on vocals. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I wonder how that would have sounded. Like, because I'm so used to hearing John on vocals, and as far as I know, I don't think there's an available early version with Trevor on vocals, but maybe it would have gone something like, once bitten, twice shy, no regrets. You know, assuming that the lyrics are the same. But yeah, I think you could sort of maybe imagine, you know, the words in his voice. You could sort of do some really interesting mental exercises there. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Okay, so who we have next? Mark Colson, who mentions ARW, you know, giving on to that, and the solo on Hold On. So I don't know if this just refers to the solo on Hold On the studio version, or if this is how it sounds with ARW. Because here he said he left out ARW, but yeah, fair enough. Like those shows were so fun. I got to see ARW in Las Vegas back in 2017, and yeah, of course they only put out one song and it was on the radio, Fragile, which I think sounds really good. But of course, if there wasn't as much, you know, it was kind of something Trevor had tucked away, and then John and Rick added a little bit on there. But yeah, it's pretty much the only ARW song that we have. But you know, it's a period of time that was strange but also interesting. Definitely glad that it happened so we could see those guys play together, and you know, people still have great memories of that time. So Phil Whittle says, why not Union? Okay, so another one of those statements. Classic Yes had nothing to do with the Rabin tracks, and Miracle of Life is an awesome song. Yeah, so I guess that's also pointing to how Miracle of Life sounds very classic Yes in a way. So yeah, fair enough mentioning that. It's a really great song. And then John Eargle says, or Earl says, on 90125, the writing of Our Song. On Big Generator, the writing of Final Eyes. And on Talk, the writing of Endless Dream, Silent Spring, and State of Play. Okay, so Silent Spring would be the instrumental intro, right? Yeah. So very cool. Yeah, Trevor is a really great writer. With songs, I think or I guess speaking for from experience, in the past when as a kid listening to the songs, I would mainly think of the playing before I'd really get into like who was a co-writer on this, who came up with this, that type of thing. So then we have Kevin Casey, who says shoot high, aim low jumps to mind. Some of the guitar moments are ethereal, some delicate, some head banging. John and Trevor's voices complement each other perfectly. It's beautiful songwriting. There are many great eras of Yes, but the Rabin era is solid from first song to last. Yeah, that's a really high stamp of approval right there. Yeah, thanks. Um, and Max Shell replied to Kevin saying, I forgot how much I love Shoot High, Aim Low. Thank you. Yeah, so for me personally, Shoot High, Aim Low, like I think it's a good song, but I'm always kind of surprised when I see that it's at the top of people's lists as far as, favorites from Big Generator or favorite from the Rabin period. Because maybe it's the pacing and the vocals not sounding as upfront to me, if that makes sense. Like, I still appreciate it, but yeah, it's very interesting, like how high it is for some people. I see in the comments, Violet says, "Yeah, Can't Look Away is amazing. I love that solo on I Can't Look Away." Um, and 9012 live video was the first time I saw Trevor Rabin play with Yes. I was blown away by the magic with this collaboration. A treasured video in my collection. I only discovered Rabin in the early 90s. I've never looked back. Yeah, as a little kid, I watched that and the Yes Years documentary so much. And on Yes Years, the 9012 live portions were my favorite parts. But um, as I continued to grow, I grew to love the other eras of Yes as well. But that Rabin material was what got me so, um, you know, passionate about the band, And when me and my dad interviewed Trevor, I think one of the times afterward, I told him like the 9012 live and Yes Year stuff was what got me really into Yes, and you were really part of that, and he was like really happy to hear that. So yeah, I totally get it. Just take another sip of water before I read this next submission. Marcel Poole says, our song, Shoot High, Aim Low, and I Am Waiting. What I like in general from him, his great compositions and his great guitar solos. Nice. And speaking of guitar solos, Steven Stehauer mentions Solly's Beard. That's the solo piece that Trevor would perform with Yes, definitely on the 9012 live tour, maybe on the Big Generator one as well, and definitely on I think he put on the Union tour, or at least rehearsed it. So next we got Jim Henson, who says Hearts from 90125, I'm Running from Big Generator, The Calling from Talk, Miracle of Life from Union. Odd he skipped that one. Yeah, I know. I've already explained earlier in this so you've probably already heard if you're listening, but yeah. Overall favorite is the entirety of Jacaranda. Nice. Thanks, Jim. Greg Martin says, from the televised Big Generator / 9012 Live Changes. Okay, so I think, yeah, maybe there was like a little bit of the Big Generator tour that showed up on television. I vaguely remember seeing something kind of like that somewhere on YouTube, perhaps. And Greg also says he named his first son after Trevor, and his last name is his middle name. Nice. Yeah, that says it all right there. Stephen M. Comito says, I'm running hearts and talk. Nice. And Mike Brown says, changes on 90125, shoot high, aim low on big generator, and endless dream on talk. I love every song on Can't Look Away and cannot pick one, but if I must, it would be The Cape. Yeah, The Cape is an interesting choice because it's an instrumental. You don't hear Trevor's vocals on it at all. But it's a really cool, mysterious ending to the album and very much feels like it could be on a film score. So maybe a bit of unintentional foreshadowing of that. So I agree, it's a really cool track, that one. Eric Toll says, Our Song, I'm Running, and The Calling. Nice. All three of those end with NG. Interesting. About oh, how do you pronounce this? Balaz Niklos Gabor says just simply says talk. So I guess that whole album. Okay, yeah, it's a great album. And Richard S. Upper did not list songs, but says happy birthday Trevor, take care and God bless you. So nice. Tore Morton Andreasen Figenshow says so many highs. I say all of them too, and then thumbs up. Yeah, it can be definitely hard to choose. So yeah, point taken. Ron Gamble says all of his work. Trevor is so talented, and I named my son after him. Also, another person who named their son after him. Cool. Jeff Reedy says favorite moment from Big Generator, the underrated I'm Running. Okay. Ellis Green says from 90125, City of Love, from Big Generator, I'm Running, and solo his entire Can't Look Away album, although Rio is almost as good. From Talk, Real Love. Okay, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might be either the first or second mention of Real Love as a favorite for Talk. But yeah, come to think of it, City of Love and Real Love kind of feel like they're similar in tone. So interesting that those are a couple of your favorite Trevor moments. James Bertish says 90125, the solos on Hearts, Big Generator, I'm Running, Talk, the solos on Endless Dream. So very particular attention to the solos on a couple of these. Nick Laffon says, I've said it 100 times on this page. I'm Running is the most underrated Rabin era song and one of Yes's best in my opinion. Yeah, that's another interesting statement because in terms of the mainstream, I definitely see how it doesn't get as much mention. But I think among Yes fans who've listened to the Rabin era, I'm Running gets a lot of praise. This whole sample of submissions being evidence of that. But I do agree that it's really cool. And, some of these songs, like, it would be very surprising if they dug out some of this on any current or future Yes tours, or if Trevor decides to tour again and plays a few of these. 90125, I love the last riff on Hearts 2. It drives me to tears. And so yeah, that's from Nick. Andrea Yeager says for Big Generator, shoot high, aim low, and the rhythm of love. So I guess it was kind of hard to choose just one for that. Talk, I am waiting. And solo albums, Can't Look Away, Rio. Okay, so the two latest Trevor Rabin's vocal solo albums. Nice. Very great. Ernesto Mendoza says 90125 was his best work with Yes by far. So, yeah, of course it's subjective, but I do think even though Talk is personally my favorite Rabin Yes album. I can totally see the argument for how 90125 feels like the best produced out of those albums, compared to Big Generator and Talk and Union as well, especially if you throw that in there. But yeah, Rob O'Neill says Cinema off of 90125, Final Eyes off of Big Generator. Okay. Douglas Predmore says for 90125, Owner of a Lonely Heart. I think that might be the first time someone on here has said Owner is their favorite Rabin moment on that album. Cool. Big Generator, I'm Running, Talk, Real Love, and for the Yes West music on Union, it's a tie between Miracle of Life and Lift Me Up. Yeah, I think for Union, it's mostly been Miracle of Life from the people who've decided to mention Union, but yeah, a couple mentions of Lift Me Up as well, I believe. Nick Zales or Zales says Cinema, Shoot High, Aim Low, and Endless Dream, all three parts. Yeah, because Endless Dream is made up of three different parts. Silent Spring, Talk, Endless Dream. They were even divided into three tracks on the original CD, from what I remember. But yeah, it's great from start to finish, in my opinion. William McDaniel says Changes, Shoot High, Aim Low, and Endless Dream. Though I really have a soft spot for most of the Talk album, as it was the record that convinced me I needed to take a dive into Yes's entire catalog. I only had 90125 the first time I heard Talk. Interesting. So I guess William, from if I understand the wording here correctly, William's first Yes album was 90125, and then listening to Talk and the compositions there was what convinced William to go back and listen to the entire Yes catalog. Wow, that's a really amazing. That's an entry point right there. I see a couple more recent comments in the live feed. Gary Van Leeuwen says, I can't look away. And Amy chiming in again says, Miracle of Life and Lift Me Up are my two favorites from Union 2. Okay. So then let me take another sip real quick, just a moment. And Jorge Alvarez Villacorta says, excellent guitarist and distinct from, I think he says, I'm trying to translate this in my head, distinct from the maestro Steve Howe, so different from Steve Howe, but really good. And yeah, saying that they're both really good. Yeah, they're very different guitarists, but they're both very talented at what they do. Juan Cruz Herrera, I'm translating this in my head again, says, I love Trevor because he gave the Yes sound a strong and energetic feel, and was really heavy on the guitar. Jeff LaCroix says, my favorite 90125 song is Hearts and Trevor's solo. My favorite song off Big Generator is Shoot High, Aim Low. My favorite song on Talk is the Endless Dream Suite. I really liked Trevor Rabin's 1989 album, Can't Look Away, but I love his new album, Rio. I love everything about it. The vocals are legit. Nice. It's really cool to see that Rio is still sticking around with people a few months after its release. I think that came out back in October, so yeah, it's been 3 months since that came out, and people are still digging it. Nice. Jim Fox says, when they did Changes live on the 90125 tour. Kevin Hall says the guitar solo on Endless Dream is my all-time most cherished moment from Trevor Rabin, but that is followed by several hundred other cherished Trevor Rabin moments. My gut feeling is that he oh, okay, so he included a link to someone else who tried out the particular moment in Endless Dream, the slide solo. So this is a link to Okay, this solo was done by someone on YouTube back in, it says 8 years ago. Okay, back in 2015. Marcos Lelo Cravero. So tried the slide solo, tried covering that. And I gave this a listen earlier, and it's really cool. So I'll drop a link to that in the comments. Just give me a moment, real quick. Um, oh, and Amy chiming in again says, "Real love from Talk for me." And Gary says, "When he does an acoustic guitar solo live." Yeah. I think when people think of Trevor's playing, they generally tend to think of when he tries the heavy or speedy solos, but he's done some really cool acoustic things as well. Okay, so getting back to the list, William Harris says that nutty quasi breakdown on "I'm Running." It's very, it's kind of a frenetic Latin sounding funk. Yeah, it's really like really feels like it blends different styles. And then Marshall Tanner says the version of It Can Happen from 9012 Live so much better than the album. Okay. Um I think for me personally, I might prefer the 90125 version. Like I think I what comes down to is how the intro sounds. I kind of like the how the intro sounds on the album version, but if you prefer that live version, that's totally cool. Miguel Padilla says, "I do really like his early works, like Painted Picture, Stay With Me, Candy's Bar, Heard You Cry Wolf. From 90125, I'd say Cinema and Changes, Big Generator, Level Find Away, and from Talk, I Am Waiting." Nice. So we got mentions of solo and yes stuff there. That's really cool. Gary Radke says guitar solo on "I'm Running." And then Andy Maxville says everything on 90125 outside of Owner of Only Heart is awesome. Okay, yeah, I can see how Owner of Only Heart sounds maybe overplayed. When I was a little kid, it was my favorite Yes song of all time, but that's completely flipped. So it's now my least favorite song on that album. So I totally get you. Still impressive for the time though. Big Generator, Shoot High, Aim Low, Talk, The Calling. And Charles Martinez actually lists Sludge, which is from Can't Look Away. It's an interesting one. Jim Hannaford says Hold On from 90125, Shoot High, Aim Low from Big Generator, and Real Love from Talk. Oh, and I see Gary chiming in the comments once again, mentioning Rabbit. Yeah, Trevor was in the band Rabbit before joining Cinema, which would become Yes. Oh, and Amy says, "Oh, Sludge, good one." Yeah. Tony Jefferson, a friend of ours, says there are a few: 90125 Changes, 90112 Live, The Solos, Solly's Beard, Big Generator, Shoot High, Aim Low, Union, Miracle of Life, Talk, Endless Dream, Trevor Rabin, his self-titled first solo album, Love Life, Wolf, Heard You Cry Wolf, Can't Look Away, title track, Sludge and the Cape, and then Yes Years, Make It Easy. Okay, nice. So continuing on with the celebration. Let me just see what other comments came in. Uh, Gary says Promises off Can't Look Away. Violet says I still think the solo in I Can't Look Away is or um I'm not sure I want to say that, but it's fantastic. I'm lost in this solo. I also favor the Endless Dream Suite. Best Yes music I've ever heard. Real love I get carried away with on every listen to. Trevor Rabin brought a different dynamic to Yes. He took the band to another level. And oh, Gary's saying he's watching from Dayton, Ohio. Okay, so continuing on with the submissions. Um, okay, so we've got. Let's see. Did I read this one already? The one. Okay, yeah, I did read Tony Jefferson's. Yeah, he ended with "Make It Easy" from Yes Years, and Kurt Schweitzer replied to him saying, "That's nearly my exact list, including Love Life and The Wolf title cut." Okay. Christopher Russell says, "Hearts, Shoot High, Aim Low, Endless Dream." Al Franio says, "Changes is my favorite on all of those albums. It is an awesome song, and it is a great tune to relate to when going through big changes. They can be quite scary, and this song really gives you a positive outlook." Yeah, I totally agree. Stephen Hanking says, "Rhythm of Love." Steve Gurin says, "Long Distance Runaround, video performance 9012 Live." Now, I don't think Long Distance Runaround was on 9012 Live, but I did see it was performed at least once on that tour, like just from a quick YouTube search. But yeah, interesting choice there. Charlie Nolan lists Our Song from 90125, I'm Running from Big Generator, I Am Waiting from Talk, and Miracle of Life from Union. Okay. And then next we have a submission from Dave Kersner, who we actually interviewed a couple of times, most recently being a little more than a month ago, talked about his new solo album, Heart Landmines. But yeah, Dave Kersner's picks were Cinema, I'm Running, and Real Love. And then Hajime Shiba says, I'm Running. So just that one song. Paul J. Berger simply lists Miracle of Life. So great choices there. Peter Bregman says, saw him live solo in Philly. Was awesome. Nice. What tour was that? I'm very curious. I know there's an audience shot video, I think, of the 1987 or 88 Philadelphia concert. So I kind of wonder if maybe it was that one. Ian Barber says, Talk, that whole album. It is by far my favorite Yes album, but if I have to do one moment per album, here goes. From 90125, The Melody of Cinema. A Big Generator, Vocals of Final Eyes. Talk, Endless Dream. Union, Lift Me Up, Vocals. And then Andresh Stolfa says, extended second solo on live versions of Shoot High, Aim Low. Nice. So that's pretty much the end of the list that I have up in front of me. Let me see if anyone else has chimed in any of the other group posts. Let's see. I don't think so. So I might be able to just go ahead and read off Dad's and my choices. Well, first off, let me say like what the most mentioned ones were from this sample size I have up in front of me. So for 90125, I thought this would be a pretty easy to predict one, and it was. So that would be Changes. So on this doc I have in front of me, the word changes appears 17 times, but I think one of those times is for when it says interchanges. But yeah, after doing Control F with all these beforehand, changes got the most mentions from 90125. And then from Big Generator, this was one where it was really tough to predict because there were two songs that got like equal mentions basically. And then I think there might have been a little bit of a tiebreaker. So on this document I have, there are 15 mentions of I'm Running and 15 mentions, or actually no, now 16 mentions of Shoot High, Aim Low. I think there was like a last minute addition before I went live. So yeah, from this sample size, it seems like Shoot High, Aim Low barely got more than um, what's it called? I'm running. So yeah, very close right there. I think that was a more unpredictable thing. And then for talk, I thought this was gonna be easy to predict, and it was. The one that got the most mentions was Endless Dream. I see that that has 19 mentions on this document. And for Union, like I mentioned, Miracle of Life was the most mentioned out of the very few Rabin tracks on that. So that got 11 based on what I'm looking at. And I know there are like a couple comments that might have come in live. I don't know off the top of my head if that influences anything on the big generator thing, but I do know that my what my dad sent me might kind of throw a wrench in things, if anything. So I asked Dad, my dad Dan Schinder, um, I asked him his favorite Trevor Rabin moment from each of these Yes West albums, and he's been traveling during this time, so I think he got the question mixed up. So he mentioned three for each, and then I had to remind him, and then he set things straight on what his top favorite from each one was. But I'll go ahead and mention the top three from each that he sent me. So he said 90125 is the easiest. Cinema, Changes, Hearts, and then he later clarified that Changes was his favorite out of those three. And then Big Generator is I'm Running, Shoot High, Aim Low, and Rhythm of Love, with I'm Running being his favorite off of that. And Talk is all of Endless Dream, I'm Waiting, State of Play, and Endless Dream being his favorite off that. So if we take his Shoot High, or sorry, rather his I'm Running vote, then and add that to the number I have from this sample size I have in front of me, that ties I'm Running and Shoot High, Aim Low together again. So yeah, it kind of complicates things right there. But let me see. Is okay, yeah. Let me see if I can scroll through the comments of the people who were chiming in earlier. Maybe there were a couple of them who aren't on this list and they might have said something that could potentially break the tie. Okay. Or maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, I guess we'll just leave it with those as far as the big generator favorites. I know I still need to read my favorite Trevor Rabin moments, but I don't think it would influence the outcome of the big generator thing. So yeah, I guess it might be a tie between those two. So for my favorites, my favorite Trevor Rabin moments, and my dad also mentioned that Miracle of Life, even though it's on Union, it's like one of his favorite Yes songs and from the Rabin period as well. And I totally agree on that. It's such an excellent song. So out of the few Yes West tracks on that album, it would be Miracle of Life for me as well. For 90125, it would definitely be Changes. The guitar is great, but also trading off with Rabin's vocals and how he it feels like he gets really deep and personal, like looking into the mirror, seeing no happiness. Like I think we've all been there, or a lot of us have been there, and the song it just resonates. So I think for me it would be Changes for 90125. And then for Big Generator, now this was one where I was wondering if this will. Oh, Amy said you'll just leave it. Haha, get it. Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose, but yeah. Um, so for Big Generator, I feel like I had one clearly in mind, like for myself, but I also thought about, but I know that people also love these bits from these other songs, so I feel like I gotta listen to them again. And there are some great tracks, some great Draven moments. I do like his playing on Shoot High Aim Low. I'm running really great. Final Eyes, even like I have such a, a soft spot for that song. But if I really look deep down, this might seem very pedestrian, but because it was a hit song, but I really think Love Will Find a Way is my favorite Rabin moment on Big Generator. I know some people think the I eat at Shay Nu thing is kind of, people like to make jokes about that, but I really do like his songwriting on there and his vocals. It's a song that he originally intended for Stevie Nicks to sing, but then was persuaded to make a Yes song. Maybe part of it is that I just haven't let go to any of the nostalgia that I have from seeing the snippet of it on the Yes Years video, and then finally again to hear the song in full when I eventually got the Big Generator CD. So yeah, for me it's Level Find a Way, which does not break the tie for Big Generators moments at all, but that's my choice and I'm sticking with it. And for Talk, I'm sure everyone could have guessed this one. Endless Dream. What a way to close his tenure with Yes. That whole album Talk is, it's got some really interesting stuff. I'm Waiting. I have a soft spot for that. State of Play, just so weird and cool. Even Walls, like I really like how Walls talks about the emotion that builds up within each of us. But yeah, it's definitely Endless Dream for me. It just resonates. When the world brings you down, you can search you inside for the love you will find. The singing and just all the instruments on that are great, and Trevor shines on there. So yeah, that's it for these favorite Trevor Rabin moments. And again, happy 70th birthday to Trevor Rabin. Solo works, Rabbit, Yes, ARW, film scores. Just so much that he's created in his 70 years of life. And yeah, it's really cool. Really grateful that we were able to talk to him on this show twice, last September and last November. Talked about Rio. I think we even like touched a little bit on when he and Yes played with Jimmy Page. So yeah, check out those interviews if you guys haven't. If all of you listeners, viewers have not checked those out yet. Sorry, it's been like a really long episode. I'm just realizing the time, and yeah. So a little glimpse of what's coming up ahead. So like I mentioned, the John Davison a birthday episode will be happening on the 16th because that's when his birthday is. And I'm going to try to make that noon Pacific time. But if anything changes, I'll try to make posts and comments saying so. But yeah, what's your, if you have any favorite John Davison moments from Heaven and Earth, The Quest, and Mirror to the Sky, feel free to submit those. And just favorite John Davison works in general beyond those as well. He was in Glass Hammer and he's like done some really cool stuff. And so yeah, that'll be the 16th, and then the 17th at noon Pacific, Dad will be with me on the show again. For those of you who have been like wondering where the heck is he, during these like solo episodes, scheduling and trying to make things work out. But he'll be back on the 17th at noon Pacific, where we'll do a little tribute to Jim Ladd, who passed away last month. Talk about him, and also he worked with Billy Sherwood, so we'll talk about Jim, give him his due. And also later that day at 6 p.m. Pacific, this is relevant because of the type of music we've talked about here. 9012 Live, that set list from that tour is being performed live by the Yes tribute band Awaken. They've got some shows coming up, and their keyboardist Joe Luca will be on the show. We'll be talking with him about that. And yeah, with such a huge Yes catalog, there's a lot to pull from, and all these different people. It's uh, really unlikely that there will ever be like the same set list between different people. So it's really cool. It really speaks to the legacy of Yes music. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Let me just double check comments real quick. I think I saw one that came through. Unless this is an old one, let me just double check. Uh, do, do, do. Okay, so Chavez Carlos says happy birthday, Trevor from Mexico. Okay, yeah, thanks for chiming in, Chavez. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this one. So you have a good idea of what the next few episodes will be. And yeah, until next time, you can follow us at facebook.com/yesshift and youtube.com/at yesshift. You can search Yesshift on various podcast platforms, and you'll probably find us. Um, and you can also email us via yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Questions, feedback, suggestions, episode ideas. And yeah, really glad there were lots of people who are really into this topic and participated. So thanks again, and see you all soon.